Chest up, shoulders back. This is Revival Fitness. And it's time to talk about protein bars. Or as they've turned into, glorified junk food. If you're new to this channel, I have talked about why the so-called anabolic diet and the anabolic eating craze that has really taken over fitness the past number of years. I have dug into why it's, as I call it, putting lipstick on a pig. Meaning, it is a way to take people that still have very big appetites, and they are sugar addicts, no matter how much they claim that they're not, and it gives them a workaround, and allegedly by doing so, you can take any regular snack food or dessert and turn it into a so-called health food.
No!
A lot of these cookbook influencers have released their own renditions of protein bars. So is it better to eat a bar with protein powder added and sweeteners instead of pure sugar? I suppose so, but really, they're both just candy bars. The other ingredients are not terribly different. Now, of course, you're not going to suffer major health effects or die or get fat by eating some of these things from time to time, but as I've tried to tell you guys in the past, you cannot fall for the marketing on these type of foods. Even the best protein bars that you're going to find are going to have to be processed to a good extent simply because they need an extended shelf life. You're mixing a lot of ingredients together. You are doing your best to keep the sugar content low, but you also need to make them taste good so people keep eating them. It's going to be a lot happening at once. And this goes for any food, not just protein bars, but don't think that just because it says high protein or low fat or low sugar or even 0 calorie, just because you see those words does not mean the food is necessarily even good for you, and especially it does not mean that it's something you should be eating on a regular basis. And I'm going to explain some of these ingredients because people, especially in the fitness scene, they really have no idea about why a lot of these ingredients are bad, and they will even defend them as good. The ignorance in fitness in regards to nutrition is astounding. I mean, most mainstream fitness content creators, even the very, very popular ones, I know a lot of you guys don't realize this, I used to not realize it either until I saw the light, but they are decades behind where they should be in terms of their nutrition knowledge. There's people out here with master's degrees and PhDs, and their entire nutritional philosophy boils down to calories in, calories out, and just parroting the food pyramid. It's bad out here. But the first brand we're going to look at here is called Be Good Bakery. This is Will Tennyson's. I believe this just came out. I guess they're sort of mini protein donuts. So on the website, they have this tab, what is your nutritional philosophy? It says, think about it as your fitness coach in snack form. We're all about balancing those macros like a pro. Amp up the protein, manage those calories with smart fats. Keep that in mind, they say smart fats. And keep the carbs in check. So let's see how closely the ingredients in the cookie butter flavor match up to that statement. We've got a protein blend with collagen, whey concentrate, and whey isolate. Okay. Eggs. Nice. Vegetable oil blend. Oh boy, here we go. Palm oil and soybean oil. So already, one thing we have to note is that whenever these labels say vegetable oils, we're going to go into more detail about why vegetable oils don't actually even exist. It's kind of ironic. But on labeling, that can mean fats and oils derived from any plant. It can be fruits, grains, nuts, or seeds. So you see on the label here, it says vegetable oils, palm, and soybean. Those are not the same, even though it may appear as though they're linked together. So palm is a fruit. Other types of fruit oils include avocado, olive, and coconut. Those are definitely better than the industrialized seed oils that we're going to break down in more detail later. Something to note though, and I've done this in the past too, once you discover this information, your first thought might be to run to the store and buy olive oil, but a lot of olive oil, in fact, the vast majority in most stores, at least in the United States now, it is cut or exclusively a form of seed oil too, because it is going to be cheaper. And you have no way of really knowing the difference because you simply see it in the bottle. So if you are going to buy these type of fruit oils, I don't care if it's olive, avocado, I would say you need to buy the more expensive ones because you are better ensuring the quality. A sweetener blend, erythritol, monk fruit, and stevia, that's to be expected. White chips, sugar, skim milk, hydrogenated vegetable oil, again, palm kernel, soybean, and palm oil, almond flour, brown sugar, Oreo cookies, unbleached, enriched flour, a bunch of ingredients there, sugar, palm and or canola oil. I guess there's no way to really tell unless you work at the processing facility which exactly they're using. So in terms of peace of mind as the consumer, if you're conscious about this type of thing, that and or is not exactly ideal. Speculoos cookies, never heard of those before. Wheat flour, sugar, once again, palm and or canola oil. Look at this list of ingredients. So the final tally here, we've got 12 grams of fat, 5 being saturated, 5 monounsaturated, 2 polyunsaturated. That's a decent ratio. 19 grams of carbs, only 1 gram of added fiber. That is going to contrast heavily with the next one that we look at. 6 grams of added sugars, and then 7 grams of sugar alcohols. If you guys don't know, things that are labeled as sugar alcohols, you'll commonly see net carbs. The sugar alcohols, because they're so low in it, they don't count on the total carbohydrate grams that you see on the label. Some people will argue too that eating a lot of sugar alcohols and sweeteners can negatively affect your gut microbiome and digestion, things like that. I will not worry about that if you're not eating a lot of these. So this isn't terrible. I believe he has one other flavor right now that does not have as many total ingredients based on the flavoring of it, but this resembles a candy bar, cookies, things like that, which that is essentially what it's trying to replicate, but they throw in some protein and they modify the sweeteners instead of the sugar to give some positive effects, which is fine. But overall, this is not something that I would be reaching for on a regular basis. Next up is CICO Bar. This is Schmucky the Clown's brand. Here is the birthday cake flavor. First ingredient is fibersol. I looked this up. It appears to be a form of prebiotic fiber, but it can be labeled as maltodextrin, whey protein isolate, natural peanut butter, dry roasted peanuts, and then peanut oil, white chocolate coating, sugar, vegetable oil, there we go, palm kernel, hydrogenated palm kernel, and cottonseed, IMO syrup, which stands for isomalto oligosaccharide. That is another prebiotic fiber. It's also a sweetener, but IMO syrup, once again, is something that is very processed, and it also can result in blood sugar spiking. Rainbow sprinkles, a sugar, hydrogenated palm kernel oil, cornstarch, and then there are artificial colors, maltodextrin. So I get what they're doing with the CICO Bar. This seems to be in line with Doucet's anabolic cookbook philosophy. It is loaded with fiber. That seems to be his go-to. I will say, if you are somebody that has a big appetite, in general, again, you don't want to be eating these type of things a lot. Even with the modifications here, you are going to get a blood sugar spike from these syrups that are added, and you're going to have to eat a lot of the prebiotic fiber, meaning you're going to have to eat many, many bars to really get that effect. And you can even see this note here. According to the FDA, they no longer rule these IMO syrups as dietary fiber because of what I just mentioned, and they're counted as carbohydrates moving forward. This is still pretty close to a glorified candy bar for me. Only 4 grams of added sugar, 7 total. I would say that's on the good side, but the rest of this, it's just not something that you want to have in a meal plan on a regular basis. Up next is Anabar, and I have to say that is a very clever name. According to Anabar's website, one of their core values is top quality ingredients. This is their white chocolate cookies and cream flavor. Peanut butter, peanuts, sugar, contains 2% or less of, oh, what do you know, once again, fully hydrogenated vegetable oils, cottonseed, soybean, and rapeseed. Jeez, they must be using that Skippy or Peter Pan peanut butter. That stuff is garbage.
Come on, man, that's garbage.
These are among the worst of the worst. Dextrose, another type of sugar, salt, molasses, type of sugar, whey protein isolate, protein crisp, white chocolate, evaporated cane syrup, sugar, cookies and cream, sugar and rich flour, all those typical ingredients. Soybean and palm oil with TBHQ for freshness, invert sugar, contains 2% or less of, and then there's some leavening for baking, and chocolate salt, some soy, some other stuff, artificial flavors. Of all the bars, this one looks like it has the most added sugar, coming in at 15 grams, and just in the ingredients we were reading here, sugar comes under a lot of different names. You have to learn to look out for that too. So of the 3 influencer bars that we've seen, I'd say Anabar is without question the worst. Not only does it have the worst proportion of seed oils in it, it also has the added sugar component. Those two things concurrently, I mean, that's what a donut really is. It is high sugar, and it is high in very refined seed oils at the same time. Not only a donut, but all those common snack foods that fly off the shelves. That is a metabolic disaster if you're going to eat that on a consistent basis. And this is why I've tried to tell you guys, even in your bulking phases, do not fall for the meme of eating everything in sight and scarfing down fast food. I get every now and then, sometimes you have to, but keep your food quality high. Your body composition is going to thank you, as well as your skin and your mental focus, and a lot of other things too. And we can even look at some big name brands here. If you search up protein bars on Amazon, this one from Gatorade is going to come up. Whey protein recovery bars. They've got pro athletes and all this stuff. It must be very good, right? Let's go to the ingredients. The first one, chocolate flavored coating, featuring cane syrup, which is sugar, vegetable oil, palm kernel, and palm oil as the first ingredient. So the fact that they've got palm oil here as opposed to the seed oils is better, but there are 30 grams of sugar. Even if you're an athlete and you've just went through an intense workout, do you really want a sugar bomb like that of all of these type of ingredients, very chocolatey stuff? I mean, think about the average lifter too, man. We are not expending that much energy during the average workout to warrant consuming this much sugar after. I see a lot of guys who come in and just sit on the machines and they get their quick pump, and then they're going to down things like this. These high sugary protein bars and high sugary energy drinks, and it's like, bro, I know you did not expend yourself nearly as hard as you would have to warrant having something like this. And this list goes on and on. There are some brands that seem to be better in terms of ingredients, roughly speaking, but they're pretty much all going to have some type of sweeteners in them, which is a given. And you would want to minimize the seed oils and the overall sugar content in a protein bar if you're going to go for them. Maybe this is my calling to get into the protein bar business and make one that isn't totally full of crap. We'll see how that pans out. Stay tuned. But now we're going to do a quick crash course on the history of seed oils. Calling them vegetable oils is a misnomer because vegetables don't produce oil. That is a marketing term because it sounds better and sounds healthier. Why are these things so prevalent in the diet today? And how did we get to this point? And what are the mechanisms by which they are so damaging to the body? Seed oils are extremely processed, but that is only a small part of the story. Let's go back to the beginning. These oils were originally used as engine and machine lubricants during the Industrial Revolution. Cottonseed oil was a byproduct of cotton crops. It was actually labeled as toxic waste by governing bodies in the mid-1800s. However, William Procter and James Gamble began using it to make soap since it was cheaper than using lard, and the company P&G, Procter & Gamble, began with them, and today that same company has a market cap of nearly $350 billion. You may not realize it, but you're probably using numerous products of theirs every single day, and so am I. But back when they began using cottonseed oil to make soap, P&G realized that you could also sell it to be used for cooking. And this process was called hydrogenation. Refer back to the label. It is the process by which seed oil is chemically altered from a runny oil into a more stable form, attempting to take it from an unsaturated fat, which is a liquid, to a saturated fat, which is a solid. And following Procter & Gamble, of course, a lot of other companies took notice because this stuff was so cheap to make, and that's what this all really boils down to, not just with the seed oils, with a lot of other ingredients too today. It all goes back to the almighty dollar. The cheaper something is to produce, the more it's going to be used, even if it has adverse effects on the consumer's health, and you can bet that those effects are going to be covered up, if not outright lied about. Going into the 1900s, these seed oils were starting to replace lard and butter, given their cost effectiveness. And thanks to excellent marketing campaigns and a nice $1.5 million, in modern money, I don't know how much that is, but it's a ton.
Tell them to bring me my money.
To the newly formed American Heart Association, Procter & Gamble had seed oils infiltrating the American diet. Thanks to bought and paid for scientific research and nutritional guidelines, saturated fat, which human beings evolved eating, was now on the way out, and it was touted as bad. And the new polyunsaturated fats from seed oils, they were going to be our savior. And here's the kicker, because this is not just in highly processed packaged foods. Pretty much anything you eat today, if you're not very keen about the labels, there is seed oil in it. Pretty much every snack food you eat, and almost any restaurant that you go to, they are using seed oil even if they act like they're not. Yes, this even includes the so-called healthier brands. Whole Foods, for example, tons of their products have seed oil in them, and the same goes for beloved Chipotle. I like it too, I know, but they use this stuff in almost everything. I know, I work there. So basically anything fried in a restaurant today, done in seed oil. A lot of companies in the past used to fry their food in beef tallow or lard, which is much healthier. Tons of cereals have some amount of seed oil. Even something as simple as a loaf of bread, almost all of them today on the shelves have at least a little bit of seed oil in them. This shit is everywhere. Hydrogenated seed oils can contain trans fat, which I'm sure you've heard over the past decade or so, be rightfully vilified. It's one of the few foods that pretty much everybody can agree should be avoided, from the vegans to the carnivores, everybody in between. In 2015, the FDA in the US formally said that these things are not recognized as safe for human consumption. And in 2020, US food manufacturers were banned from selling foods with over 1 gram of trans fats in them, even though, as we just saw, there's still labels on them because if you're underneath that roughly 1 gram mark, it's not technically that amount, so you can still get away with it. So there are still processed trans fats in a lot of foods today, even if they don't show up on the label. Some places have an outright ban on using hydrogenated trans fats in restaurants and other food prep services, and there is a scarce amount of these fats found in meat and dairy, but these are naturally occurring, meaning they don't have the same negative effects as the highly processed toxic ones. So everybody agrees that artificial trans fats are bad. But when it comes to the artificial seed oils themselves, from which those trans fats are made in the first place, people still tout them as a healthy alternative and even a food that you should be eating regularly in your diet. Even if seed oils don't have trans fats in them, no matter how you cut it, they're still trash. And the main reason being, they are extremely inflammatory to the body. They have a massively imbalanced omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. So the omega-6 to 3 ratio of humans was roughly 1 or 2 to 1 just decades ago. Today, it is roughly 20 to 1. This means chronic inflammation in numerous areas of the body, and you can see the physical and mental health effects that have overtaken society in direct correlation with this imbalance. Now, correlation obviously does not mean causation, but whenever you break this down in terms of when seed oils really took a hold in the diet, as well as really processed sugars in general, those happened largely in conjunction with each other, as they became staples in the standard Western diet. That is a direct line to when obesity and so many other problems immediately shot up. Polyunsaturated oils are made up of double bonds, whereas saturated fat is made up of a single bond. This means that polyunsaturated fatty acids are unstable, and the body cannot properly digest or use them when they are highly processed. Thus, toxic byproducts are created whenever you consume these that damage your organs and promote the development of chronic disease. This creates a lot of oxidative stress on the body, and if these are something that you are consuming regularly in your diet, your body can never adequately repair itself from them.
And the reason seed oils are so harmful is because they are very prone to forming oxidation products, which we can absorb into our tissues, and which directly lead to damage. If you have a look at the structure of polyunsaturated fats which are found in seed oils, these unsaturated double bonds are chemically reactive and readily oxidize. In comparison, saturated fats don't have any of these double bonds. Take for example this paper which looked at the tendency of fats to produce toxic compounds, and you can see that the saturated lard on the left was much better than the polyunsaturated sunflower oil on the right.
And the craziest thing is, too, these people that are viewed in such high esteem and are extremely popular in the fitness space, they'll be like, oh, well, if everybody just ate less and moved more like they used to, this would all get solved. Or at least a lot of the weight-related problems would get solved. Do you really think that people today are remarkably less active than, say, 40 to 50 years ago? Now, there are definitely more desk jobs and things you can do working from home. There's been cuts to physical education programs and things like that in schools. Once again, I'm not saying that there's absolutely no difference, but on the whole, it's not like humanity just became utter sloths in the span of 40 to 50 years. This boils down to primarily diet and the massive reduction in food quality. No species on Earth eating its appropriate diet is going to get fat. Now, I'm sure there's going to be some smartasses in the comments, oh, but hippos are fat. You know what I mean. No species is reaching a size, at least in terms of adiposity, that it should not be reaching genetically if it eats what it's supposed to eat. The only way that that happens is if those species are left around people, such as cats and dogs, and humans give them a bunch of so-called people food, and then guess what? The pets will get fat like their owners. And the same applies to human beings. There's the common meme of look at pictures from your grandparents' age. There was not a single fat person to be seen. Why do you think that is? Oh, they used to run around and exercise and do all this stuff back then. People exercise more today than they ever used to in the past. At least willingly. They were eating much higher quality food, single or very low ingredients, and minimal processing. There was not a ton of chemicals added to not only the food, but the containers they were stored in. That is how you get a population that normally would not be fat, getting as fat as the Western world is right now. And this is even spreading into other cultures and countries as well. Whenever you eat food that you're not designed to be eating for extended periods, even if you're not eating exuberant amounts of it, which that's also a factor, like I said, a lot of this food now, it is literally engineered in laboratories to be as addictive as possible. Even if you eat so-called moderate amounts of calories, if you're eating very low-quality food that is inflammatory, that is going to more dispose you to packing on fat, your body composition is still going to be a mess. And this is the wild thing about the fitness industry, because there's so much tracking about all the food we eat. You should not have to obsessively track your macros and your calories and your meals and use food scales and all this stuff, track all your steps. There is no need to do that to attain a so-called healthy weight in a reasonable body composition, if we were left to eating our natural diet and sticking with whole foods. But because of the garbage that people eat every single day, you have to obsessively track just to get that under control. But if nothing else, I hope this video encourages you to take a much closer look at the labels of the food that you eat. I've been there too, guys. I was the same way. All you do is scan for the calories and protein, carbs, and fat, and if you like how it tastes, you eat it. That is how a lot of people, even in the fitness scene, that is how they approach nutrition. These are simply foods that are toxic for you. Your body has to expend a lot of resources trying to simply get them out. So you shouldn't put them in the first place, or at least keep it very, very minimal. And I know it's hard, guys, because a lot of these foods are things you grew up eating. They're very tasty, they're cheap, they're readily available, they're everywhere. You know the old saying, you get what you pay for. It's very true, but you have to think about it as an investment long term. I've done it too. I've stopped at the gas station on a long drive. I've been in a rush, grabbed a protein bar, grabbed some type of protein snack. We're going to do it at some point if you're in the gym. Even some of these protein shakes have similar ingredients in them. You just see, oh, 40g protein, you grab it and go. I get it, guys. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm perfect and I eat amazing 100% of the time, but I will say I've made these changes a lot myself over the past couple years as I've learned more about nutrition, the actual ins and outs of it, and it is going to definitely improve your body composition, even your mood, your energy, your skin, all these other benefits, your mental clarity and focus. You might not need to double scoop pre-workout, bro, to have some energy before going to the gym. There's a lot of benefits you might not realize that you're even missing out on if you don't know this information. I'd say especially the younger that you are too, the more leeway, the less immediately damaging these type of things are. But think about it. People tend to eat these things from the time that they're kids, especially if you have parents that eat whatever they want and they feed you whatever they're eating. Some of you I know can relate to that. I mean, this is going to really accumulate, and that's how you get people now who are in their mid-30s and they're extremely overweight. They look double their age. They're going to the doctor. They've got all these chronic pains and things going on. It's because of the diet. It's not simply, oh, he doesn't move enough. He's eating terrible food all the time. And there's a lot I still don't know, but I know a lot more than I did, and that's why I've reached the point that I'm at now. And I'm simply trying to spread the message here, because we're at a point now where we gotta turn this ship around because it's getting pretty bad. But this has been it, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to get your program down below, as well as get in direct contact with me about questions regarding your own eating, as well as training. and use my links to save money on other great products and services. And I will catch you guys next time.